Assalamu alaikum, this is Asnan. Today we're going to talk about the respiratory embryology, including the respiratory primordium, the development of respiratory primordium, the development of larynx, the development of trachea, development of lungs, along with the fetal respiratory movement and the stages of development of maturation of lungs. Respiratory embryology starts at the fourth week of development. The primitive structure of respiratory system is the laryngeotracheal groove, which forms in the floor of the caudal end of the primitive pharynx. Now, if we see at the diagram, this tube is the caudal. This tube is the primitive pharynx, the primordial pharynx, and at its caudal end, a groove is formed known as laryngeotracheal groove. Here it is more clear. The primitive pharynx on the both lateral sides are the pharyngeal arches, and at the caudal side of the pharyngeal pharynx a groove is formed known as laryngeotracheal groove. Now, this laryngeotracheal groove forms a small protrusion at the end of fourth week, which is known as laryngeotracheal diagram, as shown here. This is a primitive pharynx. It forms a diverticulum known as laryngeotracheal diverticulum, which elongates to form laryngeotracheal tube. This forms a laryngeotracheal tube. So, forms a diverticulum which elongates to form the laryngeotracheal tube. Now, at the caudal end of the laryngeotracheal tube forms the lungs bud, which gives rise to the trachea and the lungs. If we see at the diagram, at the caudal end of the tube forms the lung bud, also known as respiratory bud. It forms the trachea and the lungs. Now, first of all, talking about larynx. The larynx arises as a slip between the fourth and the sixth pharyngeal arch. Now we see at the diagram, this is the fourth pharyngeal arch. Pharyngeal arch are the paired structure that arises from the foregut and move to the anterior part of the fetus. So these are the pharyngeal arches, and the larynx arises as a laryngeotracheal groove between the fourth and the sixth pharyngeal arches right here. So arises as a slip between the fourth and sixth pharyngeal arches, and then this slips forms, as I have explained earlier, it forms a protrusion which is known as diverticulum, and when this diverticulum elongates it form a tube. So ultimately it forms a laryngeotracheal tube as shown here. This is the laryngeotracheal tube. So laryngeotracheal tube has an endodermal portion and are covered by a splanchnic mesoderm. So, the endoderm of the laryngeotracheal tube forms the epithelium of larynx and the glandular portion of the larynx, while the splanchnic mesoderm of the laryngeotracheal tube forms its cartilage and the muscles. Now, one of the cartilage, known as the arytenoid cartilage, is formed from the swelling due to the mesenchyme, that is mesoderm proliferation at the cranial end. So this swelling, when elongates further towards the tongue, it converts the small slit-like laryngeotracheal groove to T-shaped laryngeal inlet. Let us see at the diagram. Here we can see that this is a laryngeotracheal groove between the fourth and the sixth pharyngeal arch. Now, when the arytenoid swellings are formed on its both sides, they move toward the tongue portion. This is here the tongue is present on the upper portion. When it moves toward the tongue portion, it converts this slit-like opening, which is known as the laryngeotracheal groove, into a T-shaped laryngeal inlet. And when this laryngeal inlet undergoes recanalization, that is enlargement of its hollow portion, it forms a large laryngeal inlets with several folds known as laryngeal ventricles. And the folds are of mucosal membrane which later on converts into vocal cord, as I have explained earlier. So when the arytenoid swelling grows, they convert the laryngeotracheal groove to T-shaped laryngeal inlet, and when they undergo recanalization, increase in the lumen of the larynx, the recess bound by mucosal membrane fold known as laryngeal ventricles are formed, and these mucosal membrane folds form the future vocal cord. That was the development of larynx. Now moving toward the epiglottis. The epiglottis formation starts at the caudal part of the hypopharyngeal eminence. What is hypopharyngeal eminence? It is a prominence produced by the mesenchymal cells of the mesoderm proliferation at the third and fourth pharyngeal arches. Let us see the diagram. This is the third and fourth pharyngeal arch. Now, when the mesenchymal cell here proliferate, they form an eminence known as the hypopharyngeal eminence. Now, at the caudal aspect of this hypopharyngeal eminence is formed a swelling known as epiglottal swelling, which gives rise to epiglottis, while at the rostral aspect, upper part, as a foramen known as foramen cecum is formed, which gives rise to 1/3 posterior part of the tongue. As I have explained earlier, the caudal part of the hypopharyngeal eminence, which gives rise to epiglottal, which gives rise to epiglottal swelling, while at its rostral end, it gives rise to posterior 1/3 of the tongue. Now moving towards the trachea. The trachea starts at the end of the 5th week. Trachea forms two tracheoesophageal ridges in the laryngeotracheal tube. Let me show it. This is the laryngeotracheal tube and this is the primitive pharynx. If we cut a section at here, like this, at here, the pharynx, the primitive pharynx and the laryngeotracheal tube are shown. These are not separated at this level, but two longitudinal folds known as the tracheoesophageal fold, one here and one here, move toward each other and fuse, thus dividing this tube, which was single layer. Divide this tube, the folds are moving up and down, divide this tube into a posterior esophageal part and an anterior laryngeotracheal tube, as I'll shown here. Two tracheoesophageal ridges which move toward each other, fuse and divide the tube, primitive pharynx, into anterior laryngeotracheal part and the posterior esophageal part. Now the anterior laryngeotracheal part has a core made up of endoderm, and around this endodermal core is present splanchnic mesoderm. So endoderm gives rise to epithelium and the gland, while the splanchnic mesoderm gives rise to the muscle of trachea, the cartilage, the connective tissue and the vessels. So that was all from trachea. Now the development of lungs. Now the caudal to the tracheolaryngeal tube, a bud is formed which is known as lung bud. Now this lung bud divides into two primary bronchial buds. Both bronchial buds elongate laterally into the pericardio-peritoneal canals known as primitive pleura. Let us see a diagram. Again, this diagram, the caudal portion of the laryngeotracheal tube give rise to respiratory bud, also known as lung bud. Now this lung bud divides into two primary bronchial buds, and these primary bronchial buds, as I have explained earlier, grow into the cavity, into a pericardio-peritoneal canal, which is a space between the splanchnic mesoderm covering the endodermal core and the outside somatic mesoderm. This pericardio-peritoneal canal is the future pleural cavity, while the splanchnic mesoderm converts into visceral pleura, while the somatic mesoderm converts into parietal pleura. So, moving back to our notes, two primary bronchial buds which which elongate into the pericardio-peritoneal canal, they develop into lungs in 4 stages. Now, first stage is a pseudoglandular stage. It extends from 5th to 7th week. In this stage, lungs has a structure of a primitive exocrine gland. So all the major elements of the lungs except of those which are required for respiratory exchange, including the structures like primary, secondary and tertiary bronchi and up to terminal bronchioles are formed. So lung is like a pseudo gland at a pseudoglandular stage at which it can produce secretions but cannot undergo respiratory exchange. So in the next stage, that is the canalicular stage, which extends from the 16 to 25 week, vascularization occurs. That is, vessel develops from the splanchnic mesoderm. Vessels develop from the splanchnic mesoderm, including the pulmonary veins, arteries, capillaries. So these vessels curve around the terminal sacs. Let us see. In the canalicular stage, vascularization occurs. The terminal bronchioles give rise to respiratory bronchioles, which give rise to 3 to 6 primitive alveolar ducts, and at the end of the alveolar ducts, few terminal sacs, which are known as the primordial alveoli, are present. Now, why are they called primordial alveoli? Because these alveoli are immature and have a lining of cuboidal cells instead of squamous cell. So in the next stage, terminal sac stage, the number of primitive alveoli and pulmonary capillary increases excessively, so that the pulmonary capillaries bulge into the primitive alveoli, making the blood-air barrier, and it extends from the 24 week to the birth. In this stage, the primordial alveoli differentiate into type 1 pneumocytes and type 2 pneumocytes. Well, now type 1 pneumocytes have squamous epithelium and are in direct contact with the capillary. As I have explained earlier, they form the blood-air barrier, while the type 2 pneumocytes are round cuboidal cells and produce surfactant. The production of surfactant starts between the 20 to 22nd week. Now, in the third stage, that is the alveolar stage, the primordial alveoli, which were immature and containing cuboidal epithelium, differentiate into mature alveoli, which contain the thin squamous epithelium. In the alveolar stage, as it suggests, the number of alveoli increases via septal division. Means to say that a septa is formed inside the alveoli just like this and divides the alveoli into 2 alveoli. So septal division increases number of alveoli such that at birth the fetus has 20 to 70 million alveoli, while at the end of the alveolar stage, that is the 8th year, the child has 300 to 400 million alveoli. So it extends from the 36th week to 8 years. Now, moving to our final portion of the lecture, fetal breathing movement. Now, fetal breathing movement starts before birth, and the purpose of it is to make the lungs and the muscles learn to work together, so that a fetus can start breathing at its birth. Now, before birth, the fetus breathes in the amniotic fluid. At birth, the amniotic fluid is absorbed into vessels, including arteries, veins, capillaries, is also absorbed into lymphatics, and is also released by the fetus from its mouth and nose due to pressure via vaginal delivery. So fluid is removed from the fetus and a layer of surfactant is left behind in the alveolar epithelium, which decreases the surface tension, preventing the atelectasis during expiration. Now, what is the clinical importance of fetal breathing movement? Fetal breathing movement is used to monitor labor, and it is also used for the production of fetal fat in preterm delivery. And that's all for today's lecture, which was respiratory embryology. Subscribe the channel and thank you.
Yep.